You've never thought about sand. Why would you? It's everywhere. Beaches, deserts, playgrounds, infinite and worthless. Except it's not. We're running out of sand, and when it's gone, your world stops working. Sand is the second most consumed resource on Earth after water. 50 billion tons disappear every year into concrete, glass, electronics, and asphalt. That's enough to build a wall 90 feet high and 90 feet wide around the entire equator. Every single year. Your city is made of sand. Your phone screen is made of sand. The road you drove on today, sand, yeah. But here's the problem. Not all sand works. Desert sand is too smooth, polished by wind into useless round grains that won't bind in concrete. You need angular, rough sand, river sand, ocean sand, sand carved by water. And we're strip mining rivers and coastlines so fast that islands are vanishing, bridges are collapsing, and entire ecosystems are dying. Singapore has imported so much sand from its neighbors that Cambodia, Indonesia, and Malaysia have banned exports entirely. The country has grown its landmass by 25% since 1960, buying and pouring 517 million tons of foreign sand into the ocean. Some Indonesian islands don't exist anymore. They were sold, grain by grain, and turned into Singapore's financial district. There's a black market for sand. Not diamonds, not oil, sand. Can you believe that? In India, the sand mafia is real, violent, and worth billions. Illegal miners dredge rivers at night with pumps and barges, selling to construction companies who don't ask questions. Journalists who investigate this get killed. Police who intervene get bribed or threatened. In 2013, a police officer in Tamil Nadu was run over by a sand truck while trying to stop an illegal convoy. The scale is staggering. Morocco is building entire beach resorts while its own beaches vanish. Locals steal tons of sand overnight to sell to developers who'll use it to build hotels for tourists who want to visit beaches that no longer exist. Jamaica has lost dozens of beaches in 20 years. People fill trucks by hand, work through the night, and disappear before dawn. And it's not just crime, it's erasure. When you remove sand from a riverbed, the water digs deeper, destabilizing bridges. Foundations crack. Buildings that stood for decades suddenly tilt. The Mekong River in Vietnam is losing so much sand to dredging that it's dropping 3 feet per year in some places. Homes built on the riverbank are collapsing into the water. Here's what makes this worse. We don't track it. There's no global sand budget, no satellite monitoring, no treaty. Concrete production alone uses 40 to 50 billion tons annually, but no one knows exactly how much sand exists or how fast we're using it. We're flying blind while dreaming of civilization to Mars. Sand doesn't just sit there, it moves. Rivers carry it from mountains to deltas, spreading nutrients and building land. Ocean currents shift it along coastlines, feeding beaches and protecting shorelines from storms. This system took millions of years to balance. We broke it in decades. When you dam a river, you trap the sand. The Hoover Dam has held back 100 million tons of sediment that used to flow to the Gulf of California. The Nile carried sand to Egypt's coast for 5,000 years, until the Aswan Dam stopped it. Now the Nile Delta is shrinking. Farms are flooding with seawater. Coastal cities are eroding into the Mediterranean at 3 feet per year. The delta is disappearing, and 40 million people live on it. But dams are just half the problem. We're also mining the beaches directly. Dubai's Palm Islands needed 150 million tons of sand dredged from the ocean floor. That sand was part of the coastal defense system. It absorbed wave energy, protected the mainland. Now it's gone, and the coast is more vulnerable. And here's the irony. Dubai is in a desert, surrounded by unusable sand, so it imports sand from Australia. This creates feedback loops. You remove sand, beaches erode faster, so you add sand back. But that replacement sand washes away in months because you destroyed the natural system that held it in place. Florida spends $50 million a year pumping sand onto Miami Beach. The beach you visited last summer is not the same beach. It's a temporary replica, and it'll be gone again by next year. Here's the main issue. You can't just make fake sand. People of course try. Crushed rock, recycled glass, even ground up plastic. None of it works the same way. Concrete made with desert sand crumbles. Glass requires pure silica with 0 impurities. Computer chips need sand so refined that 1 grain of contaminant ruins an entire semiconductor wafer. The tolerances are molecular. Recycling helps, but barely. Demolished buildings yield concrete rubble, which can be crushed and reused, but only for low-grade applications like road base. It's weaker, less stable, and can't replace virgin sand in structural concrete. China demolished entire neighborhoods and recycled the debris, but still consumes more new sand than any country on Earth. The math doesn't close. Demand grows faster than recycling capacity. So engineers are experimenting. Researchers have made bricks from desert sand using polymers as binder. Others are testing bacterial concrete that grows itself, or mycelium composites, or hemp-based materials. These work in labs. They win awards, but they're expensive, unproven at scale, and the construction industry moves like a glacier. Builders want what's cheap, tested, and available now, which is sand. Meanwhile, we're building more than ever. China used more concrete between 2011 and 2013 than the United States used in the entire 20th century. India's urbanization is accelerating. Africa's population will double by 2050, and those people will need homes, roads, schools. The UN estimates we'll need 40 billion tons of sand per year by 2060. We're already scraping the bottom at 50 billion. The gap isn't closable with current technology. No one's in charge. Sand extraction falls into a legal gray zone in most countries. It's technically regulated, but enforcement is a joke. In India, you need permits to mine riverbeds, but officials look the other way for cash. In Kenya, entire truckloads of sand move through checkpoints without paperwork. The fines are lower than the profit, so companies treat them as business expenses. International law is even worse. The ocean floor is considered the common heritage of mankind, which sounds noble until you realize it means anyone can take whatever they want outside territorial waters. Power holds the key. Companies dredge international seabeds with zero oversight. There's no treaty, no monitoring system, no consequences. We have stricter rules for deep-sea fishing than for industrial sand extraction. Part of the problem is invisibility. When you cut down a forest, satellites see it. When you drain an aquifer, wells run dry and people notice. But when you dredge a river or suck sand off the ocean floor, the damage is underwater and slow. Fisheries collapse years later. Coastlines erode gradually. By the time communities realize what's happening, the sand companies have moved to the next river. And there's no political pressure to stop it. And why would they? Voters don't march in the streets over sand. Construction lobbies are powerful and connected. Developers fund campaigns. The industry employs millions. So politicians write laws with loopholes, create agencies with no teeth, and declare the problem solved. Morocco banned beach sand extraction in 2016. The theft continued. Laws without enforcement are just suggestions. And the worst part is, technology won't save this. Not because innovation isn't happening, but because it can't scale fast enough to matter. Startups pitch carbon-negative concrete, 3D printed homes using soil, and algae-based building materials. Investors love it. Headlines celebrate it. Then nothing changes, because construction is a $10 trillion global industry built on century-old supply chains that will not pivot quickly. Here's the reality. Even if you invented perfect synthetic sand tomorrow, it would take 30 years to replace existing infrastructure. Cement plants are designed for specific sand types. Building codes are written around tested materials. Insurance companies won't cover experimental structures. Contractors won't risk their licenses on unproven methods. The industry doesn't resist change out of stubbornness. It resists because failure means buildings collapse and people die. And the economics don't work. Natural sand costs $5 to $10 per ton because extraction is simple, you just scoop it up. Synthetic alternatives cost $50 to $200 for a single ton because you're engineering materials at the molecular level. Developers will always choose the cheaper option, especially in poor countries where most construction is happening. You can't regulate your way out of a 10x price difference. Meanwhile, the crisis accelerates. Every year we delay is another 50 billion tons gone. Bangladesh is losing land to erosion so fast that climate refugees are already migrating inland. Small island nations are buying sand from wherever they can find it, often illegally, just to keep their countries from washing away. The window for slow, careful solutions closed a decade ago. We're in damage control now and we're losing. This ends one of two ways. Either we radically change how we build, or we run out of options and the construction boom stops. There's no middle ground. The sand we can access sustainably is already spoken for. What's left is in protected ecosystems, underpopulated riverbeds, or so deep underwater that extraction costs more than the sand is worth. The next 20 years will be ugly. Countries will fight over sand reserves the way they fight over oil now. We're already seeing it. Border disputes in Southeast Asia where sand-rich nations restrict exports and neighbors accuse them of hoarding resources. As cities grow and coastlines erode, this tension will escalate. Water wars get attention, but sand wars will be quieter, slower, and just as devastating. Some regions will adapt. Wealthy countries will invest in alternatives, recycle aggressively, and build less. They'll engineer their way to stability at a cost. But most of the world can't afford that. Developing nations will keep mining until there's nothing left, then deal with the consequences: collapsed infrastructure, vanished coastlines, destroyed fisheries. The inequality will be stark. Rich countries will have managed scarcity, poor countries will have ruin. And you'll feel it. Construction costs will spike as sand becomes expensive and scarce. Housing prices will rise further. Infrastructure projects will stall. Bridges won't get repaired. Roads will crack and stay cracked. This won't happen overnight, it'll be a gradual decline. Easy to ignore until it's not. One day you'll notice your city looks older, more worn. Like no one's building anything new anymore. That's when you'll understand. We ran out of sand, and we kept pouring until there was nothing left to build with. I know this tensed you at least a little. Thanks for watching though, and watch another video of mine before subscribing. And don't forget to support my main channel, Armored Wisdom. Thanks.